with a golden light that made the distant rocks shine like jewels. Robert Sullivan walked with firm steps through the stables, inspecting every detail with the experienced eye of someone who had dedicated his entire life to those majestic animals. At 52, his face carried the marks of time and responsibility, but his eyes still shone with the same passion as when he ran through those same fields as a child. "Mr. Sullivan, the press people have arrived," announced Mark, his trusted foreman approaching with his hat in hand. "And more people are arriving every minute. I've never seen so much activity around here." Robert nodded, adjusting the belt of the dress pants he wore only on special occasions. The National Elite Horse Festival was the most important event of the year, and his ranch had been chosen to host the competition for the third consecutive time. It was a recognition that filled him with pride, but also with a responsibility that weighed on his shoulders. "And Thunder, how is he behaving?" he asked, heading to the stall where his most awarded horse waited for the moment of his presentation. "Calm as always, boss. Seems like he knows today is a special day." Robert smiled, extending his hand to caress the animal's velvety muzzle. Thunder was more than a horse to him. He was the materialization of his dreams, living proof that he had honored the Sullivan family legacy. The black horse, with its imposing bearing and intelligent gaze, had won more prizes than any other. Tennessee Walker in the region. "You're going to make us proud today, aren't you, boy?" murmured Robert, and the horse whinnied softly, as if understanding every word. On the other side of the ranch, a young woman firmly held the hand of a girl of approximately 8 years old. Lily Morgan observed the growing movement with a mixture of nervousness and determination. She had traveled almost 600 miles to be there, carrying with her not only the few savings she possessed, but also an emotional weight that had accompanied her since childhood. "Mom, are you sure we'll find him here?" asked Emma, clutching to her chest a faded photograph that she hadn't let go of for days. "Yes, my love. Grandma Hannah always said that one day you would meet again." Lily knelt down to look into her daughter's eyes. "Remember what we talked about? No matter what happens today, you'll be brave, won't you?" The little girl nodded, her brown eyes shining with a confidence that contrasted with her young age. She had grown up hearing stories about a special horse, about a distant ranch, and about secrets that her grandmother had taken to the grave. Now, finally, she was about to discover if those stories were real. The event started punctually at 10 o'clock. The improvised grandstand was packed, gathering breeders, journalists, potential buyers, and curious locals. Robert, wearing his best suit, took his place of honor beside the organizers, feeling the weight of gazes and expectations. "Ladies and gentlemen," echoed the announcer's voice through the loudspeakers, "we have the honor of receiving today the most awarded specimen of Golden Horizon Ranch, the incomparable Thunder, ridden by the owner himself, Robert Sullivan." Applause echoed across the field as Robert headed to the stables to fetch his horse. Thunder was calm, allowing himself to be saddled without any resistance. It was always like this before presentations. The animal seemed to understand the importance of the moment and prepared himself with the seriousness of a professional. In the middle of the crowd, Lily felt her heart racing. She had imagined this moment hundreds of times, but now that it was happening, everything seemed unreal. Emma, at her side, remained silent, but her breathing was accelerated. "It's now, my daughter," whispered Lily. "If Grandma Hannah was right, in a few minutes you'll understand everything." The gate opened and Robert appeared mounted on Thunder, forming an image that drew gasps of admiration from the audience. The horse advanced with natural elegance, each step a demonstration of controlled strength and beauty. His black coat gleamed under the sun, and his posture was that of a true equine aristocrat. But then, something completely unexpected happened. In the middle of the presentation, Thunder stopped abruptly. His ears pricked up, his head raised as if he had captured something invisible to human eyes. Robert, surprised, tried to regain control, but the horse seemed to be in a trance. Next, Thunder turned directly toward the grandstand, his eyes fixed on a specific point. A tense silence took over the environment. It was as if everyone sensed that something extraordinary was about to happen. If this story interested you, Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give it a like. Tell us what city you're watching from. Continue. Time seemed to freeze in that instant. Thunder remained motionless in the center of the track, but his breathing was visibly altered. Robert could feel the animal's muscles tensing beneath the saddle, like a spring about to release. The murmur of the crowd gradually grew, passing from curiosity to concern. "What's the problem?" whispered someone in the grandstand. "I've never seen thunder like this," commented another spectator, an experienced breeder from the region. Robert tried to calm the horse with soft words and caresses to the neck, but Thunder seemed not to hear him. The animal maintained absolute focus on a point in the audience, nostrils dilated, as if capturing a familiar and distant aroma. Lily felt her legs trembling. Instinctively, she pulled Emma closer to herself, but the girl resisted. There was something in the child's eyes, a kind of mutual recognition that she couldn't explain, but that she felt with every fiber of her being. "Mom," murmured Emma. "He's looking at me." "I know, sweetie. Stay still." But before Lily could do anything, Thunder let out a loud and prolonged whinny that echoed throughout the ranch. It wasn't a sound of pain or fear. It was something deeper, almost melancholic, like a lament or a call. Then the horse began to move. Robert pulled the reins, trying to control the situation, but Thunder had made his own decision. The animal dismounted from the ring without ceremony, leaving his owner unbalanced and surprised. The crowd stirred, some rising from their seats, others backing away in fear. "Hold the horse," someone shouted. "Call the handlers," echoed another voice. But Thunder wasn't out of control. His movements were precise and determined. He walked directly toward the grandstand, causing a commotion among the spectators, who moved aside to clear a path. Mark and other employees ran after the animal but kept a safe distance. The horse stopped exactly in front of Emma. The girl, who should have been terrified, remained serene. Very slowly, Thunder lowered his majestic head to the child's height. For a few seconds that seemed eternal. They stared at each other in silence. Then Emma extended the hand that held the faded photograph. Thunder touched the paper delicately with his muzzle, sniffed, and let out a deep sigh. It was as if an invisible current had closed, connecting past and present in an inexplicable way. "My God," murmured Robert, who had slowly approached. "What's happening here?" Lily felt tears burning her eyes. 27 years of secrets, of unanswered questions, of stories told by her mother that seemed like fantasies. Everything was materializing before her eyes. The photograph that Emma held showed a young Hannah caressing a black colt. The same Hannah who had worked on that ranch decades ago. "You know him, don't you?" Robert asked Emma directly, his voice carrying an emotion he couldn't disguise. The girl nodded, still caressing Thunder's muzzle with natural and confident movements. "Grandma Hannah used to tell me stories about him. She said that one day we would meet again." Emma's childish voice cut through the silence like a blade. "She said he would remember." Robert felt as if the ground had opened beneath his feet. Hannah. The name echoed in his mind like a painful echo from the past. He looked at Lily with an intensity that made her involuntarily back away. "Hannah Morgan," he said, more of a statement than a question. Lily nodded slowly. "She was my mother." The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of Thunder's heavy breathing and the distant murmurs of the crowd, still trying to understand what they were witnessing. Robert felt as if he were reliving a dream or a nightmare that he had tried to forget for decades. "I need to talk to you," he finally said, his voice hoarse. "In private." Mark approached cautiously. "Boss, what about the event? People are waiting." Robert looked around as if only at that moment remembering where he was. Hundreds of people were watching them, cameras were filming, journalists were scribbling in their notepads. The situation was completely getting out of control, but he knew there was no turning back. "Cancel for today," he ordered, never taking his eyes off Lily and Emma. "Say there was a technical problem." "But sir—" "Do what I'm telling you, Mark." Robert's voice came out harsher than he intended. "And make sure no one bothers these people." Thunder, who had remained motionless during the entire conversation, began to move again. But this time it was Emma who took the initiative. The girl gently held the rope that hung from the animal's halter and began to walk toward the stables. Thunder followed her docilely, like an obedient dog following its owner. "How does she know how to do that?" Robert asked, more to himself than to Lily. "I don't know," she replied, observing her daughter with a mixture of pride and perplexity. "But it's always been like that with animals. It's as if they understand her." Robert swallowed hard. Each piece of the puzzle that fit together made the situation more complex and painful. Hannah had been special with horses too. It was one of the characteristics that had most attracted him to her so many years ago. As they walked toward the main house of the ranch, leaving behind the confused crowd and frustrated journalists, Robert couldn't stop observing Emma. There was something about her, in the way she moved, in the confidence with which she dealt with Thunder, in the sparkle in her eyes, that reminded him not only of Hannah, but of himself as a child. The P. Truth was there in front of him, impossible to ignore. But Robert still wasn't prepared to accept all the implications of that extraordinary encounter. The main house of Golden Horizon Ranch remained practically unchanged since the time when Robert was a child. The solid wooden furniture, the black and white photographs scattered on the walls, the ever-present smell of coffee. Everything breathed tradition and family history. Lily observed every detail with a mixture of curiosity and discomfort, while Emma explored the environment with eyes bright with enchantment. Robert served coffee in porcelain cups that had belonged to the family for generations, his hands trembling almost imperceptibly. The silence was dense, loaded with questions that none of the three knew how to ask. "Your mother," Robert began, then stopped, seeking the right words. "Did Hannah work here for a long time?" Lily took a sip of coffee before answering, buying time to organize her thoughts. 2 years, from 1995 to 1997. She took care of the horses, especially the younger ones. She said she had a special way with them. "And she did," Robert murmured, more to himself than to her. "I've never seen anything like it." Emma, who had remained quiet until then, raised her eyes from the drawing she was scribbling on a piece of paper. "Grandma Hannah taught me how to talk to horses. She said they understand when we speak with our hearts." The girl's words hit Robert like a punch in the stomach. That was exactly how Hannah described her relationship with the animals. She spoke with her heart. He closed his eyes for a moment, trying to control the avalanche of memories that threatened to destroy his defenses. "Why did you come here?" he asked, his voice firmer than he felt. "After so many years?" Lily hesitated. She had rehearsed that conversation hundreds of times during the trip, but now that she was face to face with Robert Sullivan, all the prepared words seemed inadequate. "My mother passed away 6 months ago," she began slowly. "Before she died, she gave me a box with documents, letters, photographs, things she had kept all her life but had never shown me." Robert felt his chest tighten. And what was in that box? Letters. Many letters. Lily opened her purse and took out a yellowed envelope. "Some written by her, others written by your father." The name of the Sullivan family patriarch made Robert stiffen in his chair. His father had been a rigid, traditional man who valued above all the family's reputation and the purity of the lineage. Throughout his life, Robert had tried to meet his father's expectations, even when it meant sacrificing his own happiness. "May I see?" he asked, extending a trembling hand. Lily handed him the envelope. Robert opened it carefully, as if it were a fragile relic. The first letter was dated March 1997 and was addressed to Hannah. His father's handwriting was unmistakable, rigid, and angular letters that reflected his personality. "Miss Morgan, I hereby inform you that your services are no longer required at Golden Horizon Ranch. This decision is final and irrevocable. Enclosed is the payment for the current month and an additional amount which I consider adequate for your future needs. I earnestly request that you do not maintain contact with any member of the Sullivan family. It is in everyone's interest that this matter be definitively closed." Robert reread the letter 3 times before being able to fully assimilate its content. The coldness of the words contrasted brutally with the memories he kept of Hannah, her spontaneous laughter, the way her eyes shone when she talked about horses, the delicacy with which she touched his arms during their secret conversations. Were there more letters? He asked, his voice almost inaudible. Several, all with the same tone. Lily carefully observed his reactions. But there were also letters that my mother wrote and never sent. Letters to you. Robert's heart stopped for an instant. To me? She never completely gave up on you, Lily said softly. Even after being sent away, even after discovering she was pregnant, she continued writing, as if one day she would have the courage to send them. The world around Robert seemed to collapse. Pregnant. The word echoed in his mind like an infinite echo. Hannah had been pregnant when she was expelled from the ranch. Pregnant with, "You're my daughter." It wasn't a question, but a painful realization. Lily nodded slowly. I was born in December 1997. My mother never told me who my father was, but she kept everything. All the clues, all the memories. It was as if she knew that one day I would need to know the truth. Robert rose abruptly, walking to the window that overlooked the fields. His lands extended as far as the eye could see, but at that moment everything seemed small and insignificant in the face of the magnitude of the revelation. "And Emma?" he asked, without turning around. "She's my daughter, your granddaughter." Lily's voice trembled slightly. "Her father, well, let's say he hasn't been part of our lives for a long time." Emma, who had been absorbed in her drawings, looked up. "Mom, can I go see Thunder again?" "I don't know if that's a good idea, honey." "Let her go," Robert interrupted, finally turning around. "Mark is in the stables. He'll take care of her." After Emma ran out toward the stables, silence returned to dominate the environment. Robert returned to his chair, but he seemed smaller, more fragile than before. "Did Hannah suffer a lot?" he asked, and for the first time his voice revealed all the pain he carried. "In the beginning, yes, she had me alone, worked difficult jobs to support us, but she always spoke of you with affection. She said you didn't know anything, that your father had done everything behind your back." Robert covered his face with his hands. "I looked for her. When I discovered she had been fired, I tried to find her, but there were no traces. It was as if she had disappeared. She changed towns. She even changed her name in the professional registry. She was afraid that your father would do something worse if he discovered about the pregnancy." "And why did she never try to find me afterward, when my father died?" Lily smiled sadly. "She tried. 10 years ago she came here. She saw you from afar during a horse fair, but she didn't have the courage to approach. She said you seemed happy, prosperous, and that she didn't want to be the person who brought complications to your life." Robert felt as if a dagger had pierced his chest. Hannah had been there, so close, and he hadn't even noticed. How many lost opportunities, how many words left unsaid, how much love wasted because of pride and fear. The news spread through Riverdale with the speed of a wildfire. By the end of the day, half the town was already commenting on the strange episode that had interrupted the National Elite Horse Festival. The versions multiplied and distorted with each retelling. Some said that the famous Thunder had gone crazy. Others spoke of a mysterious girl with supernatural powers. In the center of town, at Tony's traditional bakery, a group of residents animatedly discussed the day's events. "I'm telling you, there's something strange about this story," commented Mrs. Noosa, stirring sugar in her coffee with nervous gestures. "A horse doesn't act like that for no reason. There must be something behind it." "Did you see Robert's face when it happened?" added Charlie, the mechanic from the shop on the corner. "He looked like he'd seen a ghost." On the other side of town, in the elegant house where Claire Sullivan lived, Robert's niece and his only close relative, the phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters, curious neighbors, concerned friends, everyone wanted to know details about the incident that had put the Sullivan family name on everyone's lips. Claire, a 40-year-old woman with the air of someone accustomed to controlling situations, walked back and forth across the room, her cell phone glued to her ear. "No, I don't have any information to give to the press," she said firmly to the journalist on the other end of the line. "My uncle is fine, and that's all I can say at the moment." But inside, Claire was boiling with curiosity and concern. She had tried to call Robert dozens of times, but he wasn't answering. Through the ranch employees, she had only learned that he was receiving visitors and didn't want to be disturbed. At Golden Horizon Ranch, the atmosphere was one of contained tension. Robert had dismissed most of the employees early, asking only the essential ones to remain. Mrs. Betty, the cook who had worked at the ranch for more than 30 years, prepared dinner with automatic movements, but her mind was restless. She had known Hannah. She had been friends with the young handler and had witnessed the secret romance between her and Robert. She had also been a silent witness to Robert's pain when Hannah suddenly disappeared, and to the bitterness that had settled in the young man afterward. "Mrs. Betty," Robert's voice startled her out of her thoughts. He was standing in the kitchen doorway, looking 10 years older than he had that morning. "Yes, Mr. Robert?" "You remember Hannah, don't you?" Mrs. Betty stopped what she was doing and turned to face him. "How could I forget? Good girl, worked like nobody's business, and she cared a lot for you. Why did you never tell me she was sent away?" The question caught Mrs. Betty off guard. She swallowed hard before answering. "It wasn't my place, Mr. Robert, and then, well, you seemed so hurt that I thought it better not to poke at an already sore wound." Robert approached, pulling a chair to sit at the kitchen table, as he used to do when he was a child seeking comfort in conversations with the old employee. "She was pregnant when she left, wasn't she?" Mrs. Betty sighed deeply. "I suspected. She was strange in the last weeks, nauseated, different, but she never confirmed anything to me. And why didn't she come to me? If the child was mine, why didn't she come to me?" "Mr. Robert," Mrs. Betty sat in the chair beside him, her calloused hands gently touching his. "Your father was a powerful man, respected but also harsh, very harsh. Hannah was a simple girl without a rich family, without influential godparents. What do you think would have happened if she had come knocking on the door claiming rights?" Robert closed his eyes, imagining the scenario. He knew his father's temperament well. Hannah would probably have been publicly humiliated, perhaps even accused of attempted extortion. And he was too young, too dependent on his father to have reacted adequately. Meanwhile, in the stables, Emma was talking quietly with Thunder, who seemed hypnotized by the girl's presence. Lily observed the scene from a distance, talking with Mark. "I've never seen anything like it," commented the foreman, shaking his head in amazement. "Thunder has always been docile, but with the girl, it's different. It's as if they've known each other for years." "My mother used to say Emma had a special gift with animals," Lily replied. "But I thought it was just a way she had, you know. I never imagined it would be something like this." "Did your mother work here?" "She did, a long time ago." Lily hesitated before continuing. "Actually, it was here that she met my father." Mark looked at her with renewed interest. "Your father also worked at the ranch." Before Lily could answer, Emma came running up. "Mom, Thunder wants to show me something. Can I go with him?" "Go where, honey?" "He wants to go to those eucalyptus trees over there." Emma pointed to a grove not too far away. "I think it's a special place for him." Mark frowned. "Little girl, that's far, and it's getting dark." "I'll go with her," Lily decided. "If she really has this connection with the horse, maybe it's important." The group headed for the grove, Thunder walking calmly beside Emma like a domesticated dog. When they reached the location, they found a small clearing where there were the remains of an old construction, piled stones that had once been the foundations of a house. "What was this?" Lily asked. "Old staff housing," Mark explained. "It was demolished about 20 years ago. Some of the ranch hands lived here before we built the new houses near the main house." Emma released the rope from Thunder's halter and began to explore the ruins. Suddenly she bent down and began to dig in the earth with her small hands. "What are you doing, Emma?" Lily asked, concerned. "There's something buried here," the girl replied, concentrating. "Thunder showed me." In a few minutes she managed to unearth a small metal box, rusted by time. Inside was a folded letter and a photograph. Lily took the objects carefully. The photograph showed a young Hannah smiling next to the same Thunder, or his predecessor of the same lineage, but it was the letter that made her catch her breath. It was addressed to Robert and dated a few days before Hannah left the ranch. With trembling hands, Lily began to read aloud. My dear Robert, if you are reading this letter, it's because you finally found the place where we used to meet. I didn't have the courage to deliver it personally, but I need you to know that what we lived was real and true. I am leaving because I see no other way out, but I take with me more than memories. I take a part of us that will grow and be raised, with all the love I feel for you. Don't look for me, it's better this way. But know that I will never forget the good man you are, and that our child will know this too. With all my love, Hannah. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of the wind rustling the eucalyptus leaves. Lily felt tears streaming down her face, finally fully understanding the pain her mother had carried throughout her life. Mark cleared his throat uncomfortably. I think we'd better get back. Mr. Sullivan will want to see this. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give it a like. Tell us what city you're watching from. We continue. When Robert read Hannah's letter for the third time, his hands were shaking so much he could barely hold the yellowed paper. He was sitting in his favorite armchair in the living room, surrounded by Lily, Emma, and Mrs. Betty, who had insisted on staying to witness this historic moment. She knew, murmured Robert, his voice choked. Hannah knew I would look for her in that place. The eucalyptus grove had been the secret refuge of the couple during the months when they met in secret. It was there that they talked about dreams, plans for the future, and the hope that one day they could publicly acknowledge their love. Now Robert understood why Thunder had taken Emma there. The horse also kept memories of that special place. The sound of tires on the dirt road announced the arrival of a visitor. Through the window, Robert saw Claire's luxury car park in front of the house. His niece got out of the vehicle with abrupt movements, clearly irritated at having been ignored all day. Mrs. Betty, take Emma to the kitchen, Robert quickly requested. Give her a snack. But I want to stay, protested the girl. Go with Mrs. Betty, honey, Lily gently intervened. We'll talk more later. Claire entered the house without knocking, as was her custom. At 40, she had inherited the striking beauty of the Sullivan family, but also their tendency toward a strong temperament. Since her grandfather's death, she considered herself the guardian of the family reputation. Uncle Robert, what's this story that's running through the entire town? She said without preamble, stopping abruptly upon seeing Lily sitting in the living room. And who is this person? Robert rose slowly, feeling the weight of each of his 52 years. Claire, this is Lily. Lily, my niece Claire. Pleased to meet you, Lily murmured, but Claire barely nodded her head, keeping her eyes fixed on her uncle. Uncle, the whole town is talking about what happened today at the festival. They say you cancelled everything because of some random child who scared Thunder. The journalists are calling non-stop, wanting interviews. You need to give an explanation. She's not just any child, Robert replied with a firmness that surprised even himself. She's my granddaughter. The silence that followed was deafening. Claire blinked several times as if she hadn't heard correctly. What do you mean, your granddaughter? Uncle, you never had children. Apparently I did. Robert approached the table where Hannah's letters were. Lily is my daughter, Claire. Her daughter I didn't know existed. Claire looked from Robert to Lily, then back to Robert. Her expression gradually changed from confusion to something close to suspicion. This is ridiculous. Someone is trying to take advantage of you, Uncle. Robert, can't you see? Some random woman shows up with a child, invents a dramatic story, and you believe it? She has proof, Claire. Letters, documents, photographs. Proof can be falsified. Claire became agitated, especially when there's a fortune at stake. Lily rose abruptly, her eyes shining with indignation. Listen here, I didn't come looking for money. I didn't even know my mother had worked on this ranch until a few months ago. Oh, of course not, Claire retorted sarcastically. Pure coincidence that you appear just now, when my uncle is getting older, alone. Enough, Robert pounded, his fist on the table, making everyone jump. Claire, you've crossed the line. Uncle, someone needs to protect you. You're being too emotional to see clearly, and you're being too prejudiced to accept the truth. Robert went to the small safe he kept in a corner of the room. He entered the combination with firm fingers and took out some documents. Here are the employee records of the ranch from 1995 to 1997. Hannah Morgan worked here for 2 years. He extended the papers to Claire, who examined them with growing skepticism. And here, Robert continued, taking an old photo album, are pictures from the ranch festivities of that time. He leafed through some pages until he found what he was looking for. It was a photo from Christmas 1996, showing all the ranch employees gathered in front of the main house. In the right corner, almost hidden behind other employees, was Hannah, young, beautiful, smiling timidly. Claire studied the photograph in silence. Even not wanting to admit it, it was impossible to deny the resemblance between Hannah and Lily. The same delicate bone structure, the same expressive eyes, the same shape of the face. "This doesn't prove she had your child," Claire said, but her voice had lost its previous conviction. "No, Robert," agreed. "But it explains why Thunder reacted that way today. He remembered her, Claire. After more than 20 years, he remembered." At that moment, Emma appeared in the doorway of the living room, followed by Mrs. Betty, who was carrying a tray with fresh coffee. "Mum, why is the lady shouting?" she asked innocently. Claire looked at the girl and felt as if she had been punched in the stomach. Emma had the characteristic green eyes of the Sullivan family, the same eyes as Robert, the same ones she saw in the mirror every day. "My God," she murmured, letting herself fall into an armchair. Mrs. Betty, who had remained discreet until then, decided to break the silence. "Miss Claire, don't you remember me talking about Hannah? I always said she was a special girl." "You knew about this?" Claire asked, incredulous. "I suspected. At the time, everyone on the ranch noticed there was something between your uncle and Hannah. They tried to hide it, but they couldn't disguise the way they looked at each other." Robert sat down heavily, suddenly looking exhausted. "Claire, I understand your concern. Really, from a practical standpoint, all of this seems very convenient. But you weren't there when Thunder saw Emma. It wasn't theater, it wasn't staged. It was as if he had found something he had been looking for years." "Claire," observed Emma, who had approached Robert and now played distractedly with a paperweight in the shape of a horse that was on the table. "Grandpa Robert," the girl said suddenly, "why are you sad?" The affectionate title hit Robert like lightning. He looked at his granddaughter, because now he was certain that's what she was, and felt his heart fill with an emotion he hadn't experienced for decades. "I'm not sad, dear. I'm surprised." "Surprised can be good, too," Emma smiled. "Mum said today was a day of good surprises." Claire observed the interaction between the two with an expression that mixed skepticism and something like envy. Robert had never shown patience or special affection for children, but with Emma it seemed natural, spontaneous. "Uncle," she finally said, her voice softer, "even if all this is true, you need to think about the consequences. People will talk. The press will take advantage of the situation, and there's the legal issue too." "What legal issue?" Lily asked, alarmed. "Inheritance, succession, rights," as Claire enumerated. "If Emma is really my uncle's granddaughter, she has legal rights to all of this." Robert stood up again and walked to the window. Outside, the lights of the stables were beginning to turn on with the evening. His ranch, his entire life, was about to change completely. "You know something, Claire?" he said without turning around. "Maybe it is time for everything to change." 3 days had passed since the confrontation in the living room of the main house, and Golden Horizon Ranch seemed to have transformed into a silent battlefield. Claire had stayed at the town hotel, but appeared at the ranch every day, always with a new objection or concern about the situation. Robert, in turn, spent hours talking with Lily about the past, trying to fill the gaps of more than 20 years of separation. He discovered that Hannah had become a teacher in a small town in the interior of Kentucky, that she had raised Lily alone, but always with dignity and determination. He also learned that Lily had graduated in veterinary medicine, following her mother's passion for animals. She never married again, Robert asked during one of their long conversations on the porch of the house. She dated a few times, but nothing serious. She said she had already found the love of her life, even if she couldn't have him. Lily smiled sadly. "My mother was too romantic." Meanwhile, Emma had become a constant presence in the stables. Thunder followed her everywhere, and the other Horses on the ranch seemed equally enchanted with the girl. Mark observed everything with growing amazement. "Miss Lily," he said one morning, "your daughter has a gift I've never seen the like of. Yesterday she calmed down Star, who had been nervous for days. All she had to do was talk quietly and give her a few caresses." "Emma has always been like that," Lily replied, watching her daughter carefully brush Thunder's mane. "But here it seems that gift becomes stronger." What they didn't know was that Claire was organizing her own investigation. She had hired a private detective from Nashville to verify the truth of Lily's story. She had also sought a lawyer specialized in succession law to understand the legal implications of the situation. On Thursday morning, Claire arrived at the ranch accompanied by a man in a dark suit who introduced himself as Augustus Gus Silver, the family's lawyer for more than 15 years. "Uncle Robert, I need to talk to you. It's important." Robert, who was teaching Emma how to give carrots to the horses, sighed deeply. "Claire, this is neither the time nor the place. It's exactly the right time and place." She approached, followed by the lawyer. "Mr. Silver has some important legal questions to discuss." The lawyer, an elegant man of approximately 60 years, greeted Robert with professional formality. "Mr. Sullivan, I apologize for the intrusion, but Miss Claire asked me to clarify some delicate legal issues for you." "What issues?" Robert asked, already guessing what would come. "Well, if it's confirmed that the girl is really your granddaughter, she will have significant inheritance rights. This could generate future complications, legal disputes, tax issues." "Mr. Silver," Robert interrupted, "the girl is 8 years old. She's not thinking about inheritances or disputes." "But her mother might be," Claire said directly. Lily, who had approached upon hearing the raised voices, felt her blood boil. "How dare you insinuate that?" "I'm just being practical," Claire retorted. "You appear out of nowhere, with a touching story, at the exact time when my uncle is most lonely and vulnerable." "Vulnerable?" Robert became agitated. "Claire, you've gone too far. Uncle, someone needs to protect you. You're being emotionally manipulated." The discussion was getting more heated when Emma approached, leading Thunder by the reins. The horse seemed agitated, as if it sensed the tension in the air. "Why are you fighting?" asked the girl, her green eyes shining with contained tears. "We're not fighting, dear," Robert said, bending down to be at her height. "Just talking about adult things." "But Thunder doesn't like it when you talk loud like that. He gets nervous." As if to confirm the girl's words, Thunder whinnied and shook his head, showing clear signs of restlessness. Mr. Silver observed the scene with professional interest. The connection between the child and the animal is truly remarkable, but that doesn't resolve the legal issues that need to be discussed. "What kind of issues?" Lily asked, trying to keep her voice calm. "DNA tests, for example. For legal purposes, it would be necessary to scientifically prove the relationship." Robert looked at Emma, then at Lily. "If that will resolve the issue once and for all, I accept. We'll do the tests." "Uncle," Claire protested, "you don't need to prove anything to anyone." "Yes, I do, Claire. For myself." Robert stood up, his decision made. "Mr. Silver, arrange the tests. I want to know the scientific truth." Lily felt a tightness in her chest. She had absolute certainty about the paternity, but the idea of subjecting Emma to tests, of transforming that emotional reunion into a cold and clinical matter, deeply bothered her. "It's not necessary," she said softly. "If there are doubts, it's better to clarify everything." At that moment, Mrs. Betty appeared running through the stables with an expression of urgency on her face. "Mr. Robert, come quick. Something's happened to Windstorm." They all hurried to the stable where Windstorm, a pregnant mare that was near to giving birth, was struggling in evident suffering. "She's in labor, but something's wrong," Mark explained quickly. "I've already called the vet, but he's attending emergency at another ranch." Robert approached the mare, trying to evaluate her with his decades of experience, but Windstorm was too agitated to allow an adequate examination. "She's afraid," Emma said suddenly, releasing Thunder's reins, and approaching the mare. "Can I try to calm her down?" "Emma, it's dangerous," Lily warned. "A mare in labor can be aggressive." But before anyone could stop her, Emma was already inside the stall, talking quietly to Windstorm. To everyone's amazement, the mare immediately stopped struggling. "How did she do that?" murmured Mr. Silver, clearly impressed. Emma placed her small hands on the mare's flank, closed her eyes and remained like that for a few minutes. Windstorm was breathing heavily, but was visibly calmer. "The baby is in a difficult position," Emma said without opening her eyes. "But he wants to be born. He just needs help." Robert looked at Lily with astonishment. "How does she know that?" "I don't know," Lily murmured. "She's always known things about animals that she shouldn't know." 15 minutes later, the veterinarian arrived and was able to deliver the foal successfully, aided by the calm that Emma had provided to the mare. A healthy colt was born, and Windstorm greeted it with soft whinnies of joy. "In 30 years of practice, I've never seen anything like it," commented the veterinarian, observing Emma caressing the newborn foal. "It's as if she speaks their language." Claire and Mr. Silver observed the scene in silence. It was impossible to deny that there was something special about that child, something that transcended any rational explanation. "Mr. Silver," Claire finally said, "perhaps we should postpone the discussion about the tests." Robert agreed with a nod of his head, but his mind was elsewhere. Observing Emma with the horses, remembering Hannah and her natural connection with the animals, he began to suspect that there was much more to this story than simply questions of paternity. Something told him that the true secrets of the Sullivan family were yet to be revealed. The week that followed the birth of the foal brought a tense peace to Golden Horizon Ranch. Claire had temporarily cancelled the plans for the DNA tests, impressed by Emma's inexplicable gift with the animals. Mr. Silver had returned to Nashville, taking with him more questions than answers. Robert spent his mornings in the company of Lily and Emma, trying to recover the lost years and build a relationship that life had denied them. He discovered that his daughter had inherited not only Hannah's beauty, but also her intelligence and determination. Emma, in turn, had adopted Robert as a grandfather with the naturalness characteristic of children. It was on one of those quiet mornings that Mrs. Betty sought out Robert with a grave expression on her face. She carried an old wooden box, dusty, from time. "Mr. Robert, I need to talk to you about something I've been putting off for years." Robert looked up from the book of genealogical records of the horses that he was reviewing. "What is it, Mrs. Betty?" "It's about Hannah, and about your family, too." She carefully placed the box on the table. "There are things you need to know, things I promised to keep secret while your father was alive." Lily, who was nearby, approached with interest. "What kind of things?" Mrs. Betty opened the box slowly, revealing old documents, yellowed photographs, and some personal objects. "Hannah wasn't who you think she was. I mean, she was, but her history with this ranch goes far beyond what you imagine." Robert frowned. "What do you mean?" "Hannah wasn't just an employee who fell in love with the boss. She had come here for a specific reason." Mrs. Betty took a very old photograph from the box. "This here is Hope Morgan, Hannah's grandmother. It was taken in 1943. The photograph showed a young woman with delicate features, holding a magnificent horse. Robert took the image and studied it carefully. There was something familiar about that face, those expressive eyes. "Did Hope work here too?" Lily asked. "She did. And she fell in love with the son of the then owner of the ranch, Joseph Sullivan, your grandfather's father, Mr. Robert." Mrs. Betty made a dramatic pause. "The problem was that Joseph was already married." Robert felt as if the ground was moving beneath his feet. "Mrs. Betty, what are you trying to say?" "I'm saying that Hannah and you have more in common than you imagined. Hope became pregnant by Joseph but was sent away when his wife discovered the affair. She had a daughter, Mary Morgan, Hannah's mother. The silence that followed was as dense as lead. Robert looked at Lily, then at the photograph, trying to process the information. "That would mean that," Lily began, but couldn't finish the sentence. "That Hannah and Robert were second cousins," Mrs. Betty completed. "That you share the same great-grandfather." Robert rose abruptly, walking to the window. His mind was working furiously, connecting pieces of a puzzle that he didn't even know existed. Why did Hannah never tell me this? Because she only discovered the truth after she was already in love with you. She found her grandmother's documents after she passed away. That's why she accepted the job here. She wanted to know the family ranch, understand her origins. Mrs. Betty took another document from the box, an old and yellowed birth certificate. This is Hannah's mother's birth certificate. See the Mao. Father's name. Robert read the document with wide eyes. There it was, clearly written, Joseph Sullivan. My grandfather recognized the daughter? Never. Officially, Mary Morgan was the daughter of an unknown father, but Hope kept documents, letters, photographs that proved the paternity. Hannah inherited all of this. Lily felt as if she were reliving a nightmare. You mean my mother? Discovered she was in a relationship with a relative? She discovered and was desperate, but when she tried to distance herself, she realized she was pregnant. That's when things got even more complicated. Robert returned to the table, picking up another document from the box. It was a letter written by Hannah herself, dated a few weeks before her dismissal. Dear Mrs. Betty, I don't know who else to turn to. I've discovered things about my family that change everything. Robert can't know the truth about us. It would be too cruel. But I can't stay here either, pretending nothing has changed. Please take care of him when I leave. And if someday he discovers about the baby, tell him I did what I thought was best for everyone. She knew you would keep her secrets, Robert said to Mrs. Betty. His voice choked. Hannah was like a daughter to me. I promised I would protect both of you, each in your own way. At that moment, Emma came running into the room, followed by Thunder, who inexplicably had managed to open the stable gate by himself. Grandpa Robert, Thunder wants to show you something. He's very agitated. Robert looked at the horse, which really seemed restless. What does he want to show, dear? I don't know, but he wants you all to come with me. All of you. Intrigued, the group followed Emma and Thunder to a part of the ranch that was rarely visited, an old shed where historical equipment and documents of the property were stored. Thunder stopped in front of the shed and began to dig, the ground with his hooves as if looking for something buried. What could he want? Lily murmured. Emma bent down and began to remove the loose earth with her hands. In a few minutes, she unearthed a small metal box, similar to the one she had found in the eucalyptus grove. Inside the box was a single photograph and an official document. The photograph showed a young Joseph Sullivan alongside Hope Morgan, both smiling and clearly in love. The document was a deed of donation, dated 1944. Robert read the document aloud. I, Joseph Sullivan, donate in a definitive and irrevocable character to my daughter Mary Morgan, born on March 15, 1944, the rights to the equine lineage registered as noble blood, as well as 10% of the lands of Golden Horizon Ranch, as a form of reparation for not having publicly assumed my paternity. The silence that followed was absolute. Robert reread the document 3 times before being able to speak. This means that Hannah had legal rights to part of the ranch and to the horse lineage, including Thunder, Mrs. Betty added softly. That's why he reacted that way when he saw Emma. It wasn't just effective memory. It was recognition of blood, of natural right. Lily felt tears streaming down her face. My mother never claimed these rights. Because she loved Robert too much to complicate his life, she preferred to give up everything rather than create problems for his family. Robert looked at Emma, who caressed Thunder with absolute naturalness. Everything made sense now. The girl's gift with horses, Thunder's reaction, the way she felt at home on the ranch. Emma is not just my granddaughter, he said slowly. She is the legitimate heir to part of all this. By right of blood, by legal, right by moral right. The girl looked at him with her innocent green eyes. Grandpa Robert, is that important? Robert bent down, embracing his granddaughter with all the tenderness he had kept for years, without knowing who to give it to. Yes, my dear. It's the most important thing in the world. But in the back of his mind, Robert knew that there was still a very difficult conversation ahead. Claire would need to know everything, and her reaction would be unpredictable. The sun was setting over the fields of Golden Horizon Ranch when Claire arrived for the conversation that would definitively change the course of the Sullivan family. Robert had called requesting her urgent presence, mentioning important discoveries that couldn't wait. She found everyone gathered in the main living room: Robert, Lily, Emma, Mrs. Betty, and, to her surprise, Mr. Silver, who had returned from Nashville at Robert's request. Spread out on the table were old documents, photographs, and the two metal boxes that had revealed so many secrets. "Uncle, what does all this mean?" Claire asked, slowly sitting down. Robert took a deep breath before beginning. During the next hour, he told the entire story. The romance between Joseph and Hope, the birth of Mary Morgan, Hannah's discovery about her origins, the legal rights she had inherited but never claimed. Claire listened to everything in silence, her face passing through a series of expressions: surprise, disbelief, and finally, a painful understanding. "This means Hannah had legal right to part of the ranch?" she finally asked. "She did, and Emma inherited those rights," Mr. Silver confirmed, examining the documents with a professional eye. "This deed of donation is legally valid. Even though it was never claimed, the rights haven't expired because the family never had official knowledge of the document's existence." Claire looked at Emma, who was playing quietly with a small wooden horse in her lap. "And now? What do you intend to do?" "That depends on you," Lily said softly. "I didn't come here looking for property or money. I came because I wanted Emma to know her origins, to understand why she always felt so connected to horses. But the rights exist," Robert added, "and they need to be recognized." Mr. Silver spoke up. "Legally, Emma is entitled to 10% of the ranch lands and co-ownership of the noble blood lineage, which includes Thunder and his descendants." Claire stood up and walked to the window, observing the stables where Thunder grazed peacefully. Throughout her life, she had considered herself the only heir to the family tradition. Now she discovered there was a cousin she had never known, a grandniece who had rights as legitimate as her own. "You know what impresses me the most?" she finally said without turning around. "It's that Hannah could have claimed all of this. She could have complicated our lives, created scandals, forced divisions, but she chose silence. Because she loved this family," Mrs. Betty said softly. "Even after being rejected, she never lost her love and respect for the Sullivans." Claire returned to the table, picking up one of the old photographs where Hope appeared with Joseph. "Grandpa Joseph looks happy in this photo, happier than I ever saw him in the official photographs with Grandma." "True love has that ability," Robert murmured, looking at Lily with an expression that mixed longing and gratitude. Emma, suddenly, stood up, approaching Claire with determined steps. "Aunt Claire, are you mad at me?" The simple and direct question completely disarmed Claire's emotional defenses. She knelt down to be at the girl's height, looking into those green eyes that were identical to her own. "No, dear, I'm not angry. I'm surprised and a little scared." "Scared of what?" "Because all my life I thought it was just me and Grandpa Robert. I never imagined I had a larger family." Emma smiled with the simplicity of children. "But a bigger family is better, isn't it? More people to love, more people to take care of. The horses." The girl's words touched Claire in an unexpected way. She looked around the room, seeing those people who a week ago were strangers and now were part of her family history. "Mr. Silver," she finally said, "what needs to be done to legally regularize the situation?" "Well, an inventory of the assets mentioned in the deed would be necessary, a reassessment of the lands, official documentation of the recognition of rights." "Then do it," Claire decided. "Do everything that's necessary." Robert looked at her with surprise. "Claire, are you sure?" "I am, Uncle. This family has kept too many secrets. It's time to bring everything out in the open." She turned to Lily. "I can't give back the years you lost not knowing your father, but I can ensure that Emma has everything her mother gave up." Lily felt tears streaming down her face. "Claire, I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything. We're family, and family protects each other." Robert stood up and walked to the framed photograph of his parents that had decorated the wall for decades. "Dad, I hope that wherever you are, you can understand that I'm doing what's right. What should have been done a long time ago." At that moment, as if summoned by the emotion of the moment, Thunder appeared at the door of the living room, having once again managed to open the stable gate by himself. The horse approached Emma, gently touching his muzzle to her hand. "He knows everything is right now," the girl said simply. Mrs. Betty approached Robert, placing her hand on his shoulder. "Mr. Robert, I think Hannah can finally rest in peace. She always dreamed that one day her family would be accepted and loved by the Sullivans." Robert hugged the old cook, then turned to Lily. "Forgive me for the lost years. Forgive me for not being the father you deserved." "There's nothing to forgive," Lily replied, embracing him. "What matters is that we're together now." 3 months later, Golden Horizon Ranch had completely transformed. Lily had moved to Riverdale with Emma, occupying a renovated house on the property. Her veterinary knowledge brought significant improvements to animal care. Claire discovered that having an expanded family was more rewarding than she had imagined, and developed a special relationship with Emma. The National Elite Horse Festival was held again, this time with Emma presenting Thunder in a demonstration that moved everyone present. The girl, now officially recognized as co-owner of the noble blood lineage, had become a small celebrity in the equestrian world. Robert, at 52, discovered that it's never too late to be a father and grandfather. His mornings began with Emma knocking at his door, eager to take care of the horses and learn about family history. And Thunder, the horse that had been the catalyst for so many revelations, continued to be the silent guardian of the secrets of the heart, proving that true love, even when interrupted by time and circumstances, always finds a way to come home. The ranch had never been so prosperous, not only financially but in joy, unity, and the certainty that finally